Okay, how you doing, everyone? This is Chuck Smiley with episode 9 of the Goliath podcast. I'm super excited to have a friend and a brother on the podcast. His name is Andre Collins. As you know, the Goliath podcast was created to enlighten, empower, and educate our listeners by learning from everyday heroes. Andre is definitely one of those heroes, man. He had the life. He won in high school. He won at the collegiate level. He even led the nation in scoring for quite some time, for all you athletes that don't know. And then he went on to have a very successful career overseas. I've admired him. I've watched him from afar. I've supported him at every opportunity I've had. And now I'm excited that we finally got him sitting in the chair, man, about to talk to us with his son, man. So Dre, what's up, bro?
Not much, man. How you doing, bro? Appreciate you having me on, man.
Of course, man. I would like to be able to tap into the resources that we have and, really highlight the stories of, like I said, everyday people, man. These are everyday heroes, and people don't know, like, you know, they're typically, if you reach out in your circle or if you look within a network, you'll be surprised how many different capabilities, skill sets, or experiences people have. I know for a fact that as my son is starting to, get ready to leave high school and transition to going into college, I'm going to be cleaving to you guys even more because of the relevant knowledge that you have. And so, that's really why I wanted to have you on here. And I know you have so much more to share. So, we're going to start first with just, I guess, the high school aspect. How was it? Or just talk about that, man. Were you highly recruited? Were you not heavily recruited? What did you feel you did that ultimately gave you the opportunities that you have and experienced?
Oh man. First and foremost, man, like I want to let you know I'm proud of you, brother. Everything you got going on, man, with Goliath Gear and the podcast and all the positive things you're doing in the community, man. It's inspiring. It's been a breath of fresh air since I've been home, seeing a lot of people stepping out into their own, trying to make trying to help the youth, man, and just help empower, the youth around, and not just the youth, man, but empower our communities around here on the Eastern Shore. So salute to you, bro.
Thanks, bro.
For everything you're doing, man. But to answer your question, man, coming out of high school, man, I had a great career. Um, you know, I was blessed to grow up in Crisfield and from a very young age see the importance of just, a lot of schools in the Bayside really don't have that like tradition when it comes to basketball. Some schools have tradition in football, some schools have tradition in baseball. Lucky for me, Crisfield had a rich tradition in basketball growing up in the 80s, throughout the early 90s. And, being able to play with my brother, Andy, my freshman year, to be honest, I just wanted to be on varsity. I had no clue why I was playing. I was just excited to be on the squad with my brother, his senior year. And about halfway through, it clicked for me. Man, this is bigger than just being on varsity and, to get cool points and, being on varsity playing with my brother. I got to experience and see, like, my freshman year, we was really good. So I got to see what it was all about. Even though I knew, but I was so stuck in just wanting to put on for Crisfield. You know what I mean? Like, but as I got through the season of my freshman year, I'm like, wow, this is about state championships for real, So playing with my brother, man, like, and seeing him fall short my freshman year, I think, because we made it to College Park, but we lost in the semifinals.
Oh,
I think
man.
that, yeah, so I think that game right there and seeing my brother, like, how hurt he was, knowing that that was his last high school game, I think that gave me the motivation to go on and be more serious and actually, just try to win a championship for the town of Crisfield. And in 2000, my senior year, we finally got the opportunity to do that. So I had, like I said, it was a great high school career, man. You know, and back then I felt like the base side was very competitive, especially with the guards. You know, every night you had a battle. You know, so that part was fun. And then I would say, man, like in regards to recruiting, early on in high school, you know, I didn't really have a lot of you know, a lot of people recruiting me, but it really took one AAU tournament, you know, and I tell Coverdale all the time, man, like Dwayne Coverdale, he was my AAU coach for Delaware Sharpshooters. You know, I tell him all the time, like, you know, just, man, that dude is a blessing to a lot of people, a lot of young basketball players that grew up back when, you know, I was coming through school. Just putting them in position to be successful, man, and get exposure, you know, and Coverdale did that, man. I feel like I owe him so much, you know, just by taking me out, you know, on tournaments. Man, the summertime we would be gone probably. Man, I probably would be home like, I don't know, probably like 3 weeks out of the summer. You know, it was like we was on tour all over the country, man, like playing against guys that were projected to be drafted, you know, out of high school. You know, and being able to play against that type of bump, you know, it got me the exposure I needed. So it took me one tournament, and I'll never forget it, man. Like, we was playing against Tyson Chandler, you know, and Tyson Chandler at the time, he was probably ranked like #1 in the country as far as player overall, projected to be drafted out of high school, which he was. And on his AAU team, they had a guy named Wesley Stokes, who was a top point guard in the country. And, you know, for me, that was like a coming out party. I had a lot of pretty good tournaments, a lot of showings, but not really. But it was that one tournament because of the high profile guys that I was playing against. And we were down at the Boo Williams tournament in Virginia Beach. And like, man, I had like a crazy game, like with a lot of scouts and a lot of different college coaches is in attendance. And right after the game, man, it was crazy. I probably had like 30 and like 10 or something like that. And right after the game, Tyson Chandler walked up to me and was like, "Hey, man, congratulations. I heard you just got invited to Nike All-American camp." And, you know, for me, I'm still upset because, I mean, you know me, man, like from when we were in high school, like I was super duper ultra competitive, you know what I mean? So I was upset. I didn't care about the 30 and 10 or didn't even really want to hear him talk about, like, you know, I just got invited to Nike. But I thought that was pretty dope, man. Like, and after a while, you know, after I calmed down from losing, you know, it sank in. I was like, man, you know what I mean? Like this is what I've been putting all this hard work in for, you know, and it was a blessing that it was coming right at me right then and there, right after a game where you got the #1 player in the country walking up to me and congratulating me like he the CEO of Nike, you know.
Right.
You know, but I thought it was pretty cool, man, pretty dope. And from there on, man, I went to Nike All-American camp.
Hey, Dre, let me stop you for a minute before you go to the All-American camp. First, I want to say, you know, rest in peace to Coach, man. Like,
Mr. Rayfield.
Mr. Rayfield, man. Like I'm just trying to put it into words, like what he meant to so many people. And think about this: if I'm saying it, and I didn't even go to Chrisville, think about I just can't even imagine how you guys felt. Like, he was such an inspiration. I remember, and I tell people this all the time, like where me and you really kind of bonded, or we kind of got close, is that I ended up going to my first basketball camp with you guys when you went up to Keystone.
Right.
And that was because you know, I would go down there and work out with you guys in the summer occasionally with TC. And Mr. Rayfield, for some reason, he just, I don't know, he like put me under his wing. And when I got the invite, it was off the strength of him, because he saw me, he saw how hard I worked, I guess. And I definitely wasn't as talented at the time, but having someone like that believe in you meant so much to me, bro. Knowing that the talent that you guys had, knowing the team that you had, and knowing the character and the quality of people that you guys had, it was a blessing to me, man, just to get my first invite. I ended up going out and coaching at Keystone a few years later too, which was kind of dope. But yeah, so definitely rest in peace to Mr. Coach Rayfield, man. He was such a blessing.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, Mr. Rayfield, man, to me, was nothing short of a father figure, man. You know, I can't even begin to to speak on, like, you know, what he's done for me, and how he put me in position as well to be successful, and to, you know, to go on and further myself in this career, you know, in my basketball career. You know what I mean? Like Mr. Rayfield, man, and not just me, you know, it went beyond basketball with him. You know, he was a high character guy, and he believed in everybody. You know, not just basketball players, man. He was great to all the students that was in the school, students that was in the community. You know, students like yourself that, you know, it didn't matter what school you went to. You know, if you was a kid, man, you know, and you took an interest in basketball, or needed a positive role model or figure in your life, man, you know, that was Mr. Rayfield.
Yeah.
You know, like he was, you know, I always get teary-eyed when I talk about it, man, just because, you know, not that we lost out of contact, but just when he passed and when he took ill, you know, I was out of the country, you know, so those 11 years, well, not 11, because I think he passed when I was probably about my eighth or ninth year overseas. But during that time, you know, not that we lost contact, but I just didn't get to really spend as much time with him as I would want to. You know, but
you was chasing a dream.
Right, facts. You know,
Yeah.
but he definitely was a blessing, man, to so many people, and not just the Chrisville community, but on the Eastern Shore. You know, so absolutely, man, like that. Mr. Ray was my guy.
Yeah, he definitely was. Hey, I want you, before we talk about the Nike camp, because that's really where the doors open up for you, man, or the seas parted, so to speak. Talk about that high school career, bro. You had a phenomenal high school career. I could tell you, we used to mark the calendar every time we knew we was playing them Chrisville Crabbers, because we used to joke like, yo, whose ankles is Andre gonna get, man? And we used to brag like, yo, I'll be like, yo, Daryl, you can't check Dre. He'd be like, nah, I can check him. And
Oh
I
man,
remember vividly you having Daryl dancing out there, bro. And it was just fun being in high school, knowing that I had, like I said, a friendship with, obviously, and a brotherhood with my team, but also I had an affection and compassion to you guys, because I spent a lot of time in the summer and getting to know you and your brother Andy and some of the other folks down there. So it was fun, even though we still wanted to win. I don't think we actually did my senior year against you guys, but it still was fun, man. But talk about that for a little bit, bro, because you had like some crazy numbers. I mean, you ain't roast us as bad as some other teams, but yo, it was just a sight to behold, man, when you was on the court.
yeah, man. I mean, I think my freshman year, man. Like I said, like first and foremost, like growing up, man, I always, and I here lately I've been trying to open up a little bit more, because I'm a guarded person, you know what I mean, and very I don't want to say private, but more guarded. You know, I have my guard up. But here lately on my social media, you know, especially with COVID going on, man, just like I feel like I need to open up a little bit more, and let people know that everything with my career wasn't always like an easy cakewalk, you know, because I think from the outside looking in, some people can say that. So just growing up, man, like I always wanted to be like my older brother, you know what I mean, like Andy, you know what I mean. That's why I pretty much said what I was just saying. You know, I announced that on Facebook. Like for me, he'll always be GOAT.
Right,
You
right.
know, just because he got me started in this game. So when I had the opportunity to play with him my freshman year, you know, it gave me a chance, man, to take the back seat and kind of grow into the player that I grew into leading into my sophomore year. You know, and that gave me the confidence, because I felt like if my big brother, if he believed in me and if he respected my game, then I was good. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like it didn't matter like what nobody else thought, or it didn't, you know, like I feel like my confidence level just shot up. My confidence level just shot up, you know, to a whole nother just another level.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean?
It was all about getting his approval.
Right, exactly. Exactly. You know, so once I was able to, you know, get his approval, and I was able to I had a coming out game at Bennett, matter of fact. That was my coming out game. I had 28 off the bench my freshman year. You know, Andy was struggling that game. And that 28, man, it pushed me to another level. And after that, I believe it was probably my 5th game of the season. And, you know, after that game, I think we played Cambridge the next game. And from that game on, I started that game, and, you know, for the rest of my career, you know, I started for the rest of my career. But just the numbers I had, man, it was, you know, I hold almost every record at the high school in Crisfield. Averaged, I want to say 25 my sophomore year. Then my junior year, I averaged 29, 9 assists, 5 rebounds or something like that. Senior year, I averaged 30 and 9 assists. I think I finished scoring like 2,000. Yeah, man. I'm sorry, bro. Like my mom, she trying to get my son together.
You good, bro. Hey,
but yeah.
Hey, one thing I want you to highlight too, and then we'll go to the Nike camp, man. Like you said, a lot of people think the road was paid for you, but they don't understand how much dedication and work that it actually took. I knew how much work you put in because I saw it. I'd seen how all the times you be playing, either working on your game, whatever the case may be, bro. Like I seen you put in the work, and a lot of people probably didn't know that or understood that at the time. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's what I want the young folks to understand. Like even if you do got the shine, or you do got, let's say, that attention and people are watching you, you still got to continue to put in that work.
Absolutely. You know, one thing about me, man, and it's funny, I had an opportunity to speak to some kids this morning, you know, at a showcase. And one of the things I touched on was just work ethic, man. Like, you know, it didn't matter if it was raining outside, if it was snowing outside. Only thing that stopped me from getting shots up or going on the basketball court every day of the week was if it was lightning. You know, if it was lightning and thunder. That was about it, man. Like, you know, I lived out there on the basketball court. If I was walking with my girlfriend, I had my other girlfriend with me with my basketball. You know what I mean? Like dribbling. You know, so for me, man, like, and that helped me with confidence level as well. You know what I'm saying? Like I spoke about my brother, like being confident in me, and that gave me confidence. But, you know, just the work ethic, man, the amount of work you put in, you know, mentally, I was ready for whoever or whatever was thrown my way, not just because of the talent, but a lot of people don't understand throughout my high school career, I didn't lose one suicide. I didn't lose, you know, like I wanted to be first in everything and lead by example. And if guys even got close to me, and, you know, my high school coach, you know, he'll let you know, if guys even got close to me in a suicide or a sprint drill, I would ask to run it over again. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know,
do it again, right?
Yeah. And at the same time, I didn't realize that it was actually, you know, that I was creating a mindset for my team, you know, by doing that. But, you know, that was just me being self-motivated and having an inner desire to be successful, you know. So like I told the kids today, when I was in high school, man, I used to shoot 250 shots before practice. Then I would shoot 250 shots after practice. You know, and that continued on. I know we touching on high school right now, but, you know, that continued on all the way through up until I finished playing, you know, up until I retired, you know what I'm saying? And the thing is, like in high school, I was taking 250 shots. By the time I got to college, you know, I had to make 250.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Before
and after, you know what I mean? And then it was overseas, I had to make 500, you know, like just getting that work in, man. But that's what it takes. You know what I mean? Like, as I got older, I had to realize that, you know, like, man, I got to change up. I got to, in the summertime, instead of going so hard hooping, now I got to hit the weight room, you know, to take care of my body, man. And that's one thing that's one of the things I probably would regret that I didn't really have, that I wasn't really into in high school. You know, I remember coming up, you know, on the weekends with TC and hanging with y'all. You know, y'all used to we would be in TC's room, and y'all would be in there banging out push-ups, like,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
having contests to see how many push-ups you can do. I'm like, man, I ain't with all that, man. Like, give me a ball. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, like just the work ethic, man, like that grind was serious, you know.
Yeah.
I also opened up this morning with the kids, man, just talking about there's a lot of things that people don't know about me, man, that, you know, hopefully it help kids to take my negative and turn it into a positive. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like I struggled academics, you know, not because I wasn't able to do so. It was just I really didn't like school, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You know, so it wasn't a cakewalk. You know what I mean? Like it was a grind for me. You know, especially being in a small school like Chrisfield. You know, a small school like Chrisfield, the type of attention I was getting, you know, nationally. I don't want to say teachers gave me grades because they definitely didn't give me grades, especially during the basketball season. Basketball season, I was good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they gave me more of a window, more room to fail. You know what I mean? If you know what I'm saying, like more string, more rope
Right.
than maybe what they would give other students. I look back on that, man, and I really regret it because I feel like that's one of the things that cost me from going to the University of Maryland, what would have been my freshman year, like out of high school. You know, you look at my yearbook, you see the whole class like kind of doing work, man. I'm sitting on the desk, like kind of looking around.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's that type of stuff, you know. So it all wasn't peaches and cream, man. The basketball part was easy. You know, that was the easy part because I put a lot of work in from a very young age. You know, countless hours on the basketball courts in my neighborhood. You know, I literally, when I got out of school, man, I would play from the moment I got home till, you know, we would be out there playing in the dark.
Right.
You know, if we didn't have a gym, you know. So I put a lot of work in, man, and you know, my jump shot per se, like it didn't just happen, or my ball handling abilities didn't just happen. You know, it wasn't just a coincidence. You know what I mean? Like it happened because I put the work in. Rather I'm walking down the street dribbling the ball or not. So that I feel like that helped me. You know, just the work that I put in, and it gave me confidence to go in and compete in the Bayside when the Bayside was real. You know,
Right.
like when you competing against guys like Doug King and, you know, the Marty Baileys and the Joel Adams up in Easton and, you know, the Damian Johnsons, you know, to me, that Y High team back in 97, man,
Woo.
you know, I mean, you know, like
Yeah, they was
the Pocomo teams back then, the Snow Hill teams back then,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you had to, man, all I can, you know.
And they had athletes. They weren't just ball
Yeah,
players. They was athletes, man.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, so actually Jair was supposed to be down on that meeting today that Sean and them put together, that little I don't want to say a little, but I mean the showcase for the high school cats on today. And Jair wasn't able to make it because they end up his team up here end up playing in another tournament in Springfield. And today was sort of like his coming out. He almost had like 20 buckets. He was shooting that thing, letting it go, man. And I was so happy to see him, man, because it's like you said, all the hard work that I know he puts in, it was all coming together at the right time. So
Right.
for you, for that work to continue to go in, talk about that Nike camp, bro. Because I mean, I only know maybe one or two folks that I personally know that were invited to the Nike camp
Right.
from our area, and it's not many. Actually, I think you might be the only one invited from our area. I know another cat that was up in Baltimore. But man, talk about that, bro. Because like you said, it was like that's really when you started getting all the attention even more.
Right. I mean, man, that Nike camp was
And who was there? Was there any big
so.
names there?
Oh, absolutely. You know, so you know, at Nike camp when I was there, you had Omar Cook, who was, you know, he's from New York City, point guard back then. He was rated. You know, he had an opportunity to go straight out of high school to the NBA. He decided to go university. He committed to University of North Carolina, but ended up going to St. John's. But he was a highly recruited, like top 3 point guard in the country. Growing up, DeJuan Wagner, who I feel like his name really don't need, introduction or explanation. He was a great high school player. Karan Butler, he was there. Yeah. Zach Randolph was there.
Wow.
It was just so many guys, man. Like, I can go on and on of the amount of guys that was there. The point guard I was telling you about, Wesley Stokes, was there. Luke Rignar, he played in the league for a good while. He was my roommate there at Nike All-American Camp.
Jeez.
So it was thick, man. And to be honest, like, it's one thing to have that confidence and that belief that you belong, or that you're up there, one of the better players, in your area. But it's another thing when you go out in the country and you see that you belong. You're out there holding your own, and so for me, man, like, going just being able to do that for a full week, to hold my own and get the respect from those guys, that were pretty much highly recruited, that was considered 5-star, recruits, to go to that camp, walk in day one, and they don't know who you are, to by the time you leave the camp, they're respecting you and talking to you, and, just spreading love. You know what I mean? Like, that was a great experience, and it helped me, just helped me going into my senior year to just be a different animal, right. So that, yeah, man, that's just what it was. That Nike All-American Camp, like, it did me justice. You know what I mean? Like, if I was confident, it took my game and my confidence level to it took it to a completely another level. In fact, like, I performed so well there, and I still have an article, that was written about me, and they interviewed Mr. Rayfield, and by the time I got home to camp, that last day of camp, I was still flying home, and he was getting blown up, from college coaches, from all, the different coaches, different universities, like, trying to start recruit me, man. And, I'm talking everywhere from Villanova to Texas to St. John's to, man, you name it. Yeah. Temple, just that Maryland, that window, like, kind of, it was crazy. Yeah. Of how many schools, like, started reaching out. Rutgers, how many schools started reaching out to him to start the recruiting process with me.
Wow. So all right, you get back. This should have been your junior year going to senior year, right?
Right.
Okay. Senior year, y'all light it up. You am I correct, the first basketball championship title to Chrisfield? Were you guys the first ones to do that?
Well, Chrisfield has, like, man, Chrisfield at one point was leading the state of Maryland in state championships, man.
Oh,
like,
wow, I didn't know.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, man. Growing up, you know what I mean, that tradition down there in Chrisfield is real when it comes to basketball. But it was the first state championship. I want to say my senior year was the first one since '82, if I'm not mistaken.
It's almost 20 years.
Yeah, almost 20 years, man. And so yeah, man, like, that was the first one in 20 years. And it was, it was a great feeling, man. Great feeling to experience that, like, that bus ride back, getting that escort from the bypass all the way in town. And, I mean, the complete town, man, like, both ends of the highway, both sides of the highway, like, blowing their horn at you. And,
jeez,
like, man, it's like that love is man, there's no other feeling, from bringing a state championship. I know it's different here in Salisbury, you know what I mean, because you have 3 or 4 different schools, you know what I mean? Like, when you're in a town where it's the only school, that love that you get is different, man. Like, we literally rolled through every neighborhood, including the hood, you know what I mean? Like, we rolled through the hood down there on the bus, with cars and fans following us. you know, when we circled back, got to the school, and it seemed like the entire town of Chrisville was out there cheering us on when we got off the bus. You know, we got in the gym. I was able to hoist the trophy up, and you know, in front of the whole town. You know what I mean? Like it was love, man. It was the only experience that even comes close to that, and probably was a better experience just because you know, it's so rare. You know, was winning a national championship.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
let's talk about
Because it's on
that,
a whole
bro.
nother level.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Tell us um, after high school. If I'm not mistaken, you had to do a year of prep, or
Yeah,
did you go to prep because it was recommended by the Maryland folks? Or hold up, first I'm gonna ask you this. Um, they're both two questions. So the first part is, how many different recruitment letters that you got? I know you got a lot, but let's just name like maybe the top 5 that you really were considering. And then when you finally ultimately chose the school, which was Maryland, how was that process? Because I know you went to a prep school, right, bro?
yeah. So the schools that I was really were considering was St. Joe's. That was when they had Jameer Nelson.
Right. Yep. They
So
went
St.
undefeated one
Joe's.
year too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So St. Joe's, Villanova, Temple, Maryland, um, University of Delaware,
Mm,
Rutgers.
okay.
You know, they were the schools that I kind of like were on the most, that I liked the most. Um, when I went to prep school, North Carolina. Well, let me backtrack before I get into that story. Um, so it's funny how Maryland actually started recruiting me. So I have a mentor who's from the DC area, used to work at after school program down in Chrisville when I was in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he was a student at UMES, but he lived in DC. Once he graduated, summertime, I used to always go to DC with him. And, you know, so he would send me to basketball camps, stuff like that. And so it was weird, man, going to my junior year, right? Literally a week before. So the week before Nike All-American camp, he sent me to Gary Williams basketball camp at University of Maryland. So
Mm-hmm.
that was where when they first started recruiting me. So, you know, I would play the camp all day. So the assistant coaches, you know, normally they run the camp. So, you know, they would see me play, and I ran through the entire camp, got MVP of the camp. Um, you know, they invited me to play pickup, you know, with the team. So it was summertime. The team was on campus. So around like 9 p.m. when camp was over, they would start playing pickup. So I did the camp the entire day. Um, they invited me to stay after, play with the team, play pickup. Juan Dixon, I believe, was going into he had to just finish he was going into his sophomore year.
Okay.
You know, and I was out there competing, man. I was like, yo, like this is crazy. Like you know what I mean? Like the summertime, I'm about to go into my senior year, and I'm out here competing with high level players in the ACC.
Yeah,
You
D1
know,
players, right?
right, in the ACC at that. You know, and for me, Juan Dixon, I mean, I feel like he graduated and left Maryland when he finished his career. Probably the most decorated player to ever played at University of Maryland for the things that he had to go through and the things that he done at the university. You know, so you know, and I get, you know, guys like high profile names like Steve Francis and Len Bias, and you know, all those guys came through. But I just think like the adversity that Juan had to go through and how he persevered, and you know how he handled himself, and bringing the only national championship to the university, man. For me, he's GOAT, you know, of the Terps, man. But to be able to compete against guys like that, when I'm basically transitioning to my senior year of high school, man, like, you know, I feel like I had all these different moments where it was a confidence boost, you know, for me. And that certainly was one of them. But that's how Maryland started recruiting me. Now they didn't suggest or recommend that I go to prep school because of my ability or anything like that. What happened was I didn't qualify SAT wise. I committed to
Mm-hmm.
Maryland my senior year, and you know I didn't qualify, get the score I needed SAT. So they pretty much sent their recruits to Hargrave Military Academy. It's a prep school, one of the top prep schools at the time back then. So that's where they would send the recruits at.
Where was Hargrave at again?
Hargrave is in
Hargrave.
Yeah, Hargrave is in Chatham, Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah, so a very small town. It was a military academy. It was super tough, but it taught me so much discipline. And, it's one of the things when I was going through it, I hated it. But when I look back at it, man, I appreciate it so much because it helped me grow. And it was the first place I went to when I left the nest,
Right.
So, so I really appreciated that experience after the fact. That is.
Yeah. But you was only there like what, 1 year?
Yeah, so I was there from August to April. I ended up getting my qualifying SAT score in April.
Right.
So
was you hooping on that team too, right?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, man, we had like 13 guys to go to top, like to high major Division I schools. We lost one game.
Wow.
Yeah, we were playing against JUCOs and different colleges and stuff like that. So the level of play was very good. We played Oak Hill, so it was a very good experience.
Was Carmelo there when y'all played them?
Nah, Carmelo was there, I think, a year or two after. Yeah. So yeah, man, that experience was, a great experience too, because it allowed me to kind of just see where I was at on a regular basis playing with guys on that level, because when you have like 13 like major Division I college basketball players on one team, teach you so much, man. You got to adjust, and you're not the man anymore. And, you got players on your team that are McDonald's All-Americans. Guys like James White, who was in the slam dunk contest, NBA slam dunk contest a few years back, with the Knicks and, different guys like that who was high profile guys, so you kind of had to figure out different ways to affect the game, man. So I felt like it helped my game so much. Yeah. But back to the recruitment part, when I was there at Hargrave, I remember growing up, I always wanted to play at University of North Carolina. I wanted to play at UNC, man. Just, I'm an MJ guy, and, just the tradition and the history of Tar Heels was amazing. But I remember they told me I was too short. So I ended up going to Hargrave. They saw me play. It was a AAU tournament that was held at University of Maryland. It was called the Charlie Weber tournament, and played against a guy named Melvin Scott, who was recruited, who had just trying to think. I think he had committed to Carolina at the time. And I was in one of those zones, man.
You wanted to go at him.
I was in one of those zones, and right after that, they started contacting and recruiting me. And for a brief second, I reopened my recruitment. A lot of people don't know that. Like, I reopened my recruitment from Maryland and decided I kind of gave it for a brief second, I gave it a thought and entertained the idea of, of playing at UNC. But, I remember a coach from Maryland flew down. The coach that was recruiting me, he flew down to Hargrave, and we talked, and, I ended up being a Turk.
Yeah. So talk about that, man. Get up there to College Park, new territory. Obviously, you're much more disciplined now from being at Hargrave. And so your mindset now, man, like, how was your mindset, and how was it going against, like you said, Juan Dixon and man, Steve Blake and all those cats that was on there? Talk about that experience.
Man, so from the moment I stepped foot on campus, man, like, I knew we was going to win a national championship that year. Just the energy that they brought, man, like, the way they carried themselves. They were coming off of a year where they went to the Final Four, and it got away from them. You know what I mean? Like they should have advanced to the championship game. They ended up losing to Duke in the semifinals. They were up.
Was that the year that they had Steve Francis in them there? This is before Steve
Nah,
Francis.
Steve Francis was gone. I think Francis left in '99.
Okay.
This would have been 2001.
Okay.
My year at Hargrave. So they several times against Duke that year, like at Maryland, that was the year that they were up against Duke, up like 10 with 50 seconds left, and Duke came back and won. Sent it into overtime and won. So you had that game. Then you had the game at, in the national championship game, where they got Duke down. They had them down by 22. And Duke came back, ended up winning. I want to say they may have played Duke in the ACC tournament, and something similar happened, So, but when I stepped foot on campus, man, I could tell those guys were like super focused, and was really, it was one goal, it was either national championship or it was a down year, So just learning from them guys, learning how to be a college player, an ACC player, it was amazing, man, playing with Juan Dixon, Chris Wilcox, Lonnie Baxter, Steve Blake. Just learning from those guys every day, the proper way to compete, the proper way to practice, what it meant to be a family, a team, in the locker room. I cherish those moments, man. And I would say some of my best moments, but it also when it comes to basketball, it was my roughest moment. Like that was my lowest point, man. Like it's hard, it's not really hard to explain, but just for somebody like myself who never had to go through a situation of not getting playing time, never having to take a back seat, it was tough to go in that situation. Go in that situation. Right? Yeah, it was tough, man. Like going in that situation and no matter what you did, no matter how good you played in practice, no matter, what numbers you would put up when you get in the games with the limited minutes you had, you weren't cracking that lineup. You know what I mean? And for me, man, it was hard to understand, like the seniority thing. You know what I'm saying? And now that I'm older, I understand it. Having gone through it, I understand like the seniority part. I understand, that I didn't have anyone to walk me through that recruiting process to actually look at and see what year are these guys that are in ahead of you. You know what I mean? Like Steve Blake, when I really committed to Maryland, Steve Blake would have been a sophomore with what was supposed to be my freshman year. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that really wasn't a smart decision if I'm looking at like wanting to get playing time. You know what I mean? Because now you literally coming in after a guy who's a freshman, who just finished his freshman year. So that means I have to sit behind him for 3 years. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't have I wasn't educated on things to look for with that recruitment process again, because, nobody in Chrisville was, as far as I know, was recruited on that level to be able to walk me through that process.
I think you brought up a very good point too, man, with some of these young collegiate or high school players. Like I try to get them to understand, like, I know that this university or higher learning institution may want you there to come play ball, but you need to know if you're a right fit for their current system. And are they looking at you coming straight in, getting playing time, or are they trying to groom you to fill somebody else's spot who may be a junior or a junior or senior? So I think that's a very important point that you made, man, because I'm constantly talking to our guys about that. Like, look, it may be cool to go to one of these top 5 schools, right? One of these blue blood schools, Duke, Kansas, whatever. But it may be advantageous for you to go to somewhere like a Howard University where you can start playing immediately and making an impact from your freshman year versus you riding the bench for a year or two or only getting limited minutes. So that's a very good point, bro. I'm glad you brought that up.
Right, man. Like, and to continue on that, I mean, we could just take my situation again. Like, when it comes to Maryland, only regret I have is I didn't take the SAT serious. coming out of high school. You know
Right.
what I mean? I just didn't take that part serious. You know, I took academics serious all basketball season, you know. But after the season, you know, I kind of chilled. You know, so when it comes to anything connected with Maryland, that was my only regret. You know, I did win a national championship there. You know, I won an ACC championship there. I'm etched in the history books and made the last 3-point shot at Cole Fieldhouse.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a ton of things that positives that came out of that. You know what I mean? Built bonds and brotherhoods with guys that, you know, were going on and had successful careers in the NBA, or coaching at the college level, or playing for a Hall of Fame coach in Gary Williams. And, you know, so much positive came from that, even the recognition that I get coming back home on the Eastern Shore, just by playing at University of Maryland. You know, so all of that was great, you know. But I will say this. I wonder what would have happened if I went to Loyola originally, you know, straight out of high school. You
Right.
know, if Loyola was my first choice. You know, in 1 year, you know, I sat out a year. Obviously, my game matured more, because, you know, I was older. You know, I figured out the college level. You know, I was comfortable, you know, confident and motivated. You know, just having gone through that situation at Maryland, where not really getting playing time, or, you know, it felt like I wasn't getting a fair shake or a fair opportunity. You know, I wonder what would have happened if I went to Loyola. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and I didn't go to Maryland. You know, because the year I was at Loyola, man, like the numbers I put up was very reminiscent of high school.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, at one point I was leading the nation in scoring, for a few weeks. You know, I want to say I led the nation in 3-point, you know, baskets. I had the school record at Loyola for the most points scored in the season. You know, I finished 4th in the nation in scoring. Um, uh, you know, it was a great situation. You know, there were many games where I had NBA scouts there. You know, it was, who knows? You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? What would have happened?
How
4 years of that.
right. How did that situation materialize for you being at Maryland? Obviously, that year you graduate. I mean, not excuse me, not graduate, but win the championship. Like, did you? I know you were kind of frustrated, but like you just won a championship. Like, yo, you left. Most people don't leave after winning the championship. They're like, yo, next year I should be able to start into a role there. Like, how did all that situation
Well,
turn out?
I actually did 2.5 years at Maryland.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was at Maryland my freshman year, sophomore year, and then half of my junior year. I ended up leaving the team my junior year. That's when I decided, you know, I just couldn't take it anymore. Um, you know, towards the end of my sophomore year, I remember we were playing North Carolina, and Steve Blake, Drew Nicholas, the regular starters and regular guys that was in rotation weren't really, you know, they had Raymond Felton and Rashad McCants and Sean May and, you know, those guys. They were rookies. I mean, they were freshmen at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but they were really, really good, you know, like, but they didn't understand how to win. So they was down towards the bottom of the ACC. And we were struggling, you know, against them at home, you know, so he ended up throwing me in the game, me and John Gilchrist. And we went on a run, you know, and we ended up giving North Carolina at the time. That was the worst loss in their school history at the time. I think we won by like 46 or something like that.
Wow.
And we sparked that run. So what happened was, the next game we were playing Clemson at home. I can't remember, but I don't think we were playing well that game as well. I came in, sparked another run, and, you know, we ended up doing well. So I want to say it was from the Baltimore Sun, either Baltimore Sun or Washington Times. I can't remember who, but they did a story on me. And pretty much the story was just, you know, just me like being ready. You know, I had a knack of if I played 5 minutes, I was gonna score 8 points, 5 assists. or 3 assists or get some steals. I was gonna have a good stat line. So once he played me those 2 games, students were chanting, they wanted me to get in, and news reporters started writing about it, and like I said, they did a story, and I pretty much just told them my approach was the way I stayed ready was I treated my practices like my games. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those guys from that Maryland team, they would tell you, man, like my time was there. Because the one thing I wanted, even though I wasn't getting playing time, I wanted them to know I belonged, and which they did. They knew I belonged, what I'm saying, there. Having the opportunity to play against Steve Blake every day, competing with him every day, and seeing where I was at, with him, I was all for that, you know what I mean? And I look forward to pushing him, and because he was our leader, man. And I'll say this, like Steve Blake's probably the best point guard that I've ever played with. Just his approach to the game and how smart he was and how he got everyone involved and led the team from a point guard standpoint, so being able to learn from him as well was a great thing. But yeah, man, so they did a story on me, and after that, he played me for the rest of my sophomore year. I got time in the NCAA tournament games and, all of that, man. So coming back into my junior year, I'm thinking like, all right, now it's about to be, it's about to get into a position where I've always wanted. Right. Blake was going to be gone. Blake was graduating. And then I seen just, start off the season, my junior year, I was getting some decent playing time, started the game. But as soon as we started playing like the bigger schools, I started noticing my minutes would go back down the same way it was the previous years. So, it hurt me bad, man. Like that same mentor I used to go spend time with in the summertime when I was in middle school and high school, we had this spot. We used to go to Applebee's right there on campus every day after every game. We ended up going there, man. And I just told him, I broke down, man, was crying. I had one of my teammates with me, Chris McCray. I just told him I couldn't do it anymore, so because I always knew, man, like I'm the type that I put all my eggs in one basket. It was I didn't need a plan B because I was gonna make my plan A work, whether it was NBA or overseas. And in my mind, I just said, in order for me to achieve that dream, I have to leave. The writing was on the wall. They started experimenting with, and DJ Strawberry was, he was a really good player, but he wasn't a point guard. They started experimenting with DJ Strawberry at the point guard position. And for me, that told me everything, so I decided to leave. Ended up at Loyola actually playing for the assistant coach. He was my assistant coach at Maryland. So he ended up taking the job at Loyola that next season. So yeah, man. So I went there, and the rest was history.
Talk about them Loyola years, bro. From barely getting time to just roasting every team you played against, man. You went on a string where the numbers were quite phenomenal, bro. I used to watch them like, yo, look at Dre lighting it up right now. So it was definitely fun, and I knew, bro. I was like, man, he's definitely gonna pave his way into playing somewhere professionally. So it was dope to see that. But talk a little bit about that, because we got a few minutes, and we're probably gonna have to come back in. I'm gonna have to do another hour with you, man, just to talk about the professional. But let's talk about the segue into Loyola and then the professional side, and then the next one we do, man, when I'm able to link up with you, we'll talk about the professional, what you're doing now, and then obviously the family man that you are now, bro. So go ahead and highlight those things.
Yeah, man. So, at Loyola, man, it was, I remember I did an article, man, and after I read it and read what I said, I was like, dang, that might have came off like a little disrespectful. But the way I was at Loyola, man, I was just in another zone, man. Like I was just on some, it really, and the quote I had in the article was, it felt like high school, as far as like, not the competition level, but just how comfortable I was, like just, I was back in my environment, in my bag. Like I had the full confidence of the coach. full confidence of my teammates, and I was just put in a position to succeed, and again, I knew all the hard work was going to pay off. I had to sit out a full year to prepare myself and prepare my body, prepare my mind mentally, to get me ready for that next year for when I was going to play my senior year. Man, like I remember I had several games where I was in the high 30s. I think my career high was 39. I had several games, 38, 36. I can't remember a game. I think my lowest scoring game that year was 16 points, against UVA on the road, so it really brought a lot of national attention to myself. Like I said, I was getting looked at by scouts. The Mavericks really liked me. The Knicks used to come to some games. The Sixers came to a few games. So I was getting interest from NBA teams. Ended up getting invited to Portsmouth, which at the time Portsmouth was kind of like the NBA Combine now. So I got invited to Portsmouth, and it's crazy, man. This is how I really know that the NBA just wasn't in the cards for me. And I was, for a while, it bothered me, but like now I'm at peace about it. And like I said, it just wasn't in the cards, man. Like, so I left Maryland after my 5th game of the season, 5th or 6th. And I pretty much played one game too many. I appealed. So I played, so it's a certain percentage of games, back then at least. It was a certain percentage of games that you could play and not lose that full year if you transferred.
Oh, man.
So I think I played in one game too many. And I decided not to go to Portsmouth because all the scouts, like I appealed to try to get my year back, to get that year back. So technically I only played 3 years of college basketball. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? When you're supposed to get 4. So I appealed to try to get my 4th year, to get my senior year back. They didn't let me know. They ended up denying it. I want to say like 2 weeks before the NBA draft. Wow. And the reason I declined to go to Portsmouth is because all the NBA scouts that was interested, they wanted to see me more of a point guard role. When I was at Loyola, it was more like, man, I had to score 30 for us to have a chance to win. Right. So that next year, the team that we was gonna have come in, like I kind of started this wave at Loyola where transfers, like I was the first transfer to go to Loyola, right? After I transferred to Loyola, another Maryland guy, he ended up leaving Maryland and transferred to Loyola. His name was Hassan Fafana, right? So after he transferred, then a top recruit from the D.C. area who was at Notre Dame at the time, he decided to leave Notre Dame and come to Loyola. His name was Amari Israel. After that, Gerald Brown, God rest his soul, that was my guy. He was murdered last year in Baltimore last summer. But he was at Providence. He's from Baltimore. He decided to transfer from Providence
come back home
to Loyola. Yeah. To Loyola. So now you have four guys that have played at the high Division I level, for high profile programs that was going to be at a mid-major college. So for me, that would have been the perfect opportunity. I wouldn't have the pressure to score 30 points a night. I'm sure my point outage would have dropped, my points per game average. I'm sure it would have dropped to, who knows, 15, 17, something like that. But my assists would have went way up. I feel like the defensive end, I would have been able to to focus a lot more on that defensive end as well. And pretty much show the scouts that I was able to play the point guard position and pretty much lead a team, because, they're not looking for that from a guy coming out of college, man, a young guy, who's not really a high profile guy. Even the high profile guys, they're not looking for those guys to come in and average 30. you know. So they was looking for me to come in and really, you know, just kind of lead the show my point guard abilities. I didn't get that opportunity, man, and you know, that's one of the things that I kind of look back on.
Because
like I said,
if you would have had that extra year, you would have had a chance to play with all those guys.
Exactly.
And your wins would have probably increased a lot more as
well.
Wins
would have increased, although, you know, at Loyola, man, like the year we went from the year I played was the first year, and I think it was about 10 years, the first year that that Loyola had a winning season. Wow. You know, I feel like that next year, I can't remember if they went to I think they did. I think they went to the NCAA tournament. Okay. I think, yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, just, you know, imagine that. Like, George Mason a few years earlier went to the Final Four. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we definitely had the pieces with those guys that we had that played a high level to could have made a run. I'm not gonna say we could have went to the Final Four, but we definitely could have made a run and shot some teams in the tournament. You know, but again, didn't get that opportunity, man. And you know, like I said, you know, I just feel like it wasn't in the deck of cards for me. You know, and I finally like came at peace and just was appreciative of what God blessed me, you know, or what he did bless me with, the opportunity to still be able to say I played professional basketball.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, bro, I had you on the line about an hour, and man, I love to continue, man, but I know you got family. I got to go get ready for work tomorrow and all that great stuff. But it's imperative that we do part two, bro. We got to talk about life as a pro and how that was like, how you won the championship, how you played what you played, 12 years?
11
years. Yeah. And that was, you know, all the different experiences and information that you learned from that, man, because I know you're mentoring and tutoring so many other young fellas. And I also want to talk about that. I know my son loves the opportunity. We come home and I'm like, yo, like Dre said, you can come at this time. His face like lit up because he knew he was going to get some high quality training that a lot of people aren't afforded or given the opportunity. And so, man, I'm telling you, we're grateful for that. And like I said, man, seeing him today, man, put on a show at that tournament they was at, I said, man, it was good to see just all that hard work being put together and building for his senior year. And even though COVID is here and we might have a shortened season, I'm still excited to see what he does and
absolutely
what he's led to do, man. So definitely want to talk about that, and then also talk about little Dre as well, and how you are training him. It's a blessing, man, kind of seeing him grow, as well as your daughter and now the other baby as well, bro. So
yeah,
man, talk about all that.
Right. Yeah, man. Definitely. I look forward to it, man.
God bless you, bro. We'll talk to you again soon, and we'll do the part two as soon as we can get up.
All right. Sounds good, bro.
All right. Take care. Have a good night.
All right. You too.